Good morning, everyone. Welcome. The Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation will come to order. We're here today to examine a monument to American ingenuity, the Panama Canal. Senator Moreno down there suggested we open the hearing by playing Van Halen and Panama. We may not do that, but between the American construction of the Panama Canal, the French effort to build an isthmus canal, and America's triumphant completion of that canal, the major infrastructure projects across Panama cost more than 35,000 lives. For the final decade of work on the Panama Canal, the United States spent nearly $400 million, equivalent to more than $15 billion today. The Panama Canal proved a truly invaluable asset, sparing both cargo ships and warships the long journey around South America. When President Carter gave it away to Panama, Americans were puzzled, confused, and many outraged. With the passage of time, many have lost sight of the canal's importance both to national security and to the U.S. economy. Not President Trump. When he demanded fair treatment for American ships and goods, many in the media scoffed. But the Panama Canal was not just given away. President Carter struck a bargain. He made a treaty. And President Trump is making a serious and substantive argument that that treaty is being violated right now. This committee has jurisdiction under the Senate rules over the Panama Canal, and today we will examine evidence of potential violations. President Trump has highlighted two key issues. Number one, the danger of China exploiting or blocking passage through the canal. And number two, the exorbitant costs for transit. Chinese companies are right now building a bridge across the canal at a slow pace so as to take nearly a decade. And Chinese companies control container ports at either end. The partially completed bridge gives China the ability to block the canal without warning. And the ports give China ready observation posts to time that action. This situation, I believe, poses acute risks to U.S. national security. Meanwhile, the high fees for canal transit disproportionately affect Americans, because U.S. cargo accounts for nearly 3/4 of canal transits. U.S. Navy vessels pay additional fees that apply only to warships. Canal profits regularly exceed $3 billion. This money comes from both American taxpayers and consumers in the form of higher costs for goods. American tourists aboard cruises, particularly those in the Caribbean Sea, are essentially captive to any fees Panama chooses to levy for canal transits. And they have paid unfair prices for fuel bunkering at terminals in Panama as a result of government-granted monopoly. Panama's government relies on these exploitative fees. Nearly 1/10 of its budget is paid for with canal profit. As those fees cascade through the American economy and the federal fisc, the Chinese Communist Party advances its global economic contest against the United States and takes a militaristic interest in the canal. While President Trump has rightly focused on these key issues, there are additional problems. In the last 2 years, the Canal Authority generated record revenue, even while transits were depressed by drought conditions. And the only comfort to delayed and overcharged ships is that Panama may invest in more freshwater reserves in the future. Even as it takes advantage of the global maritime system, Panama has emerged as a bad actor. Panama has for years flagged dozens of vessels in the Iranian Ghost Fleet, which brought Iran tens of billions of dollars in oil profits to fund terror across the world. And Chinese companies have won contracts, often without fair competition, as the infamous Belt and Road Initiative has come to Panama. China often engages in debt trap diplomacy to enable economic and political coercion. In Panama, it also seems to have exploited simple corruption. We have 4 panelists with us today. At Ranking Member Cantwell's request, we also invited the Deputy Administrator of the Panama Canal to appear today. She declined that invitation. I understand this witness claimed her absence was due to a scheduling matter, but I also recognize that defending the Panama Canal Authority is an unenviable task. This committee may be obliged to compel her testimony at a future hearing. It will not escape senators' notice that Professor Kontorovich is appearing virtually today. That will be a very unusual practice before this committee. The professor was ready to fly from Israel to D.C. to appear in person, but he was unable to because too few American carriers have resumed direct flights to Israel. While European airliners are willing to fly to Israel, service to America has been prohibitively long and expensive. Israel is America's closest ally in the Middle East, and U.S. carriers are refusing to fly there. Late last week, Delta Airlines announced it would finally restart direct flights to Tel Aviv in April. And I very much hope that United Airlines and American Airlines will very quickly follow suit and resume direct flights to Israel. Turning back to the topic at hand, I'm grateful to President Trump for raising public awareness about the state of the Panama Canal and the threats to American interests. We cannot afford to let American shippers be extorted. We cannot turn a blind eye if Panama exploits an asset of vital commercial and military importance, and we cannot stay idle while China is on the march in our hemisphere. I expect and hope the testimony today to enlighten on all of those issues.